So today I'm going to be playing Puzzle Rush on chess.com. It's where the puzzles get increasingly more difficult until you lose 3 puzzles. You can follow along in the video, and I will explain each puzzle as we go. Please subscribe as I'm trying to grow this channel. Okay, so in this first puzzle, immediately what I notice even before it starts is that this knight is unprotected, and it continues to be unprotected, so it's just free. Notice that the queen and the rook are in a battery, so you can checkmate them on the weak g7 square. Notice that there is a rook and bishop, and together they make this very nice checkmate. So we're being checked, but instead of just moving, we can take this free rook. So immediately the king is super weak, so we want to look for forcing moves like checks that could potentially checkmate them. Now the only check actually, besides taking this queen or just blindly losing it, would be queen to d5 checkmate, which will actually cover all the squares that the king needs to move to, so that's checkmate. Okay, so battery of the bishop and queen, and that would be checkmate. Okay, so we're about to lose our rook, and they're about to promote another queen, so we better checkmate them fast. Look at forcing moves and look at checks. So what checks are there in this position that just aren't stupid checks, that don't like lose material or anything? Now the only check, and it also comes with a free piece, is also checkmate. Taking the knight on e8, also along with the pawns, that will stop everything from, will stop the king from being able to move. So checkmate. Here you want to notice that the knight and the queen are going to work together to attack the weak f7 pawn. So after takes, you simply take this rook, but after blocks, you still need some way to checkmate, and it's a very nice smothered mate with the knight on f7. Okay, so queen to b8. Now you need to do something called a this is a sort of tactic, I guess, where you need the king to move over a square, not 2 squares, just 1 square, so you can move your rook to the back rank, trade, and checkmate. Now the way to do this is to go check here, and it forces the king to go to the right 1 square. They move, and then you trade with checkmate. Okay, so here there is a nice tactic. They're attacking your knight, and because there's no other sort of forcing moves or checkmates here, you do actually need to move your knight. But there is a checkmate in 2 if you see it. That's amazing. But the move here is knight to d6 check. You have to move your knight anyways. You don't really want to move it back this way. You want to be aggressive. Check. And after the king moves to the right, the queen would take the f-pawn, and it's checkmate. I'll go back to that perhaps later because I thought it would let us finish, but it didn't. Okay, so the king has just moved up a square. We need to take advantage of the fact that they have a weak king because they're up a minor piece, and that's no good. So let's look. If this check, they just move back, and this is not checkmate, but we can take advantage of the fact that we have our pawn that would protect our knight, and our rook, sorry. And after the king moves back another square, the rook to e2 is checkmate. So check, up 1 square, down 1 square, check, and then this is checkmate because there's no squares for the king to move to. Now notice that we have 1, 2, 3 pieces attacking something that's only protected once. So takes, and that would win the game. Now, this king just walked into like the only square that would let him get checkmated. Notice that this is essentially a pawn, so it's basically just back rank checkmate. Okay, so here notice that the queen and the knight again team up on this square. So let's calculate. After takes, the king will move here. Now the next best forcing move is knight takes e6. So the king has to move to c8, and then the queen can move to c7 checkmate. That's like the puzzle back there that we didn't get to finish, or it ended before checkmate. So it takes check, check, and then checkmate. Okay, so this is a pretty common tactic where you go check first to move the king back a square, which is another common idea in a lot of chess games. But then here you have to sacrifice your queen in order to checkmate the king. So this is not scary because our pawn will stop him in time. So we instead just need to push our own pawn and ignore them for now, because we will queen first. Now, we need to not let them promote, obviously, so we also don't want to just lose our queen trying to stop them, so we need to look for checks here. The easiest way to win a queen versus king and pawn endgame is to get the queen behind the pawn. However, we can't do that right now, so the best next thing is to give a check, and once they have to move, and if they go behind the pawn, then we can walk our king over. Okay, so the king is back here, the back rank is weak, and notice, look for forcing moves. We can't actually take this because he'd take this because of the bishop. Okay, that was a terrible arrow, but ignore that. Instead, we have to look for other moves, and the move here is queen to d6 check, which attacks the king and attacks the rook. So after the king moves, it doesn't matter which way they move. Taking the rook will be checkmate on the back after they block with the bishop, but still checkmate. Okay, in this position, we have a lot going on. We have to look at what's hanging. Our knight is hanging, and if we move our knight, our bishop hangs to the queen. So we could potentially take this, but more importantly, we need to look at what we could take for free, and looking at queen takes h4 check. This forces the king to move this way because this square is covered by the knight on our side. So after they move there, they can't block with the rook, obviously, because we just take that, and that's checkmate. So after takes, okay, if the king would have moved to the left, we would have moved our queen to a8, and then after the rook blocks, we would take the rook with checkmate. Okay, so the king just moved here. Now this is a pretty nice puzzle because it's basically a calculation, although it's quite easy. Basically, what you need to see is that your pawn will promote, and this king is too slow to stop it if it's further away. So if we go check, trade the rooks, then we can promote the pawn with no issue because the king cannot catch it in time. Okay, so here just notice that the f7 pawn is too weak to protect, so it just takes, and you'll eventually checkmate there. Okay, so this bishop move is protecting this square, but it doesn't actually protect this square because after check, they take, we go here, their king will move to g2 and checkmate, and the bishop, the rook, and the pawns make a very nice mating net. So check, takes, check here, and this is checkmate. Okay, now here it's another calculation thing with king and pawn endgames. If we take here, notice that his king is blocking his pawn's way to promotion, so you can just start pushing your pawn, and this is just winning. So push, 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 queen, and we get a queen before they do. Okay, now there's a couple things we need to look at. Firstly, we can actually just fork their king and their queen, which is probably the best move here. Anything else doesn't quite do the trick, although, I mean, eventually this, but this should be winning. Check, yeah. Okay, now this is something called a clearance sacrifice. Basically, we don't want the bishop here because then the queen and the rook would team up to checkmate on the h2 square. So we need to just get rid of the bishop. And the way to do that in this position here is to go check on h2, the king moves, and then we just sacrifice the bishop. And okay, the queen blocks because there's really no point. And after the king takes, we checkmate on h2. Very nice puzzle. Okay, so the king has just moved to c8. And notice that after takes, there's only two ways black could respond to this. If they take with the knight, we go rook to e8 check. And after the king moves, say, let's say they protect their rook like this, then we move down a square and we're forking their knight and their bishop, and there's no way to protect both. Now, let's say on the other case, let's look at the other variation where where after they take with the knight, we go check. I mean, they can't go here because we just take the rook. So what if we go takes, and they just take with their king? Well, now it's a fork with a rook of the king and the bishop. So takes. Okay, so they took with the knight. We go check, and we just fork their pieces. Okay, that comes with check, so there's no issue. Okay, so I immediately just want to sacrifice here without even calculating yet, because this seems like the king is just too weak to ignore. Also, once but we of course need to calculate. What I'm looking at here is if we go takes, check. Okay, so there's going to be some sort of knight maneuver to c6 to check the king and whatever piece is on this square. Now, I don't want to take this immediately. I'm thinking takes. If they go here, then we go here, check. And if they take our piece, then we are able to fork the queen and the king. So if takes, and something else, his only other move is this, which also forks the king and the queen. So it is this rook sacrifice, and we did calculate, and it does work. Check. Very nice puzzle once again. Takes, and yeah. Okay, he didn't need to take that, but okay, here something to notice immediately is that this king is like completely boxed in. These pawns cover this square, and if we can make him come out here, then this would eventually be checkmate. So the move here is h5 to force him here, and then this is checkmate. So h5 and checkmate. Okay, so sorry about that. I'm not sure if you can hear that, but we need to notice here that the queen and the bishop attack the f7 pawn, although this isn't really an issue right now. If we move our queen somewhere, it could potentially be. Now, it's also important to notice that the queen doesn't have that many squares to go to. For example, if we go g6, the only move it has is this. But we need to be looking for some sort of mate, and the move I'm immediately thinking of is trying to maybe sacrifice the rook here, because if takes, we have check, and then after the king goes to the only square, g1, we have bishop discovered. We have bishop to e3 check, which lets our queen attack their queen. So let's go for that. Rook takes, queen takes check, and then this check allows, he has to deal with the bishop check, and then we just take the queen. Okay, it's a forced move, so there's no need for the puzzle to do that, but okay. So basically here, we want to look at this double check because there's not a ton of things that black could potentially do. If we go double check here, let's say that black goes here, then this would be checkmate. Let's say double check with the knight and the queen here. Black goes here. Then we move our queen here. Black moves over, and this is checkmate. Regardless of where black goes, this is going to be checkmate. So yeah, so check. This is the same as if he would have gone backwards, and that's checkmate. Okay, this is a simple mate in one. It's a very nice mate where the queen makes this kind of like weird, where it covers a lot of the squares, and it's like this, it hits diagonally and blocks the squares on the sides of the king. So this is checkmate because there's nowhere the king can move. And also X-ray protects the knight. Okay, so now this is also a nice puzzle because firstly our queens are staring at each other, but we can ignore the fact that our bishop is attacked and our queen is attacked because, well, we can't ignore that our queen is attacked, but if we go queen takes g7, they can't just take our bishop because we take their rook with check, their king would move, we take their queen with check, and then we deal with this issue. So after we take here, they have to move the rook, and then we take the bishop, and we've just won a piece. So takes, oh, okay, well, we're winning material now here, and you just move the rook. Okay, so the issue here is that if you take this rook, their king will take, and you can't promote anymore because their king will stop you in time, and these pawns are too strong to stop. Now, the interesting move here is to go g7. This move would work because after rook takes e2, you will go queen on g8, and it looks like it works. The only issue is that there's this check on the back, and after your king moves, they'll take your queen. So that is not the move indeed, but we need to find a solution. So let's see. Potentially it's just moving the rook over, but that seems a bit odd. If we take, and then go here, they will go here, and it doesn't work. So I'm just thinking to go here because I'm not sure what else to do. I'm going to move. I really wish that this move would work, but it doesn't, so there's not much I can do here. I think this is the move. Okay, it's not. For watching the video, this is going to be a two-part video due to the length, but thanks for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it at all, please subscribe, as I'm trying to grow this channel, and it will help me come up with new ideas for the future. Please leave any comments that you have about this video in the comments section, and thanks for watching.